Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm starting part 2 of my KU series. So I just shared everything that is in my KU library, and this video is going to be a try a chapter tag type of deal where we are going to read the first chapter of all 20 books in my current KU library, and I'm going to rank them. So I am going to create a ranking here of 1 through 20. And as I go through these books, I'm going to rank them in order. Hi, we have a cat. And so the way I'm going to do this is I am going to read these in 4 book segments. So I'm going to go through, read the first 4 books and do that 5 times. And every single time I read 4 books, I will come back and I will update the ranking. So first it'll be 1 through 4, then 1 through 8, etc. until we get 1 through 20. And then I don't know how many of them I'm going to read for the vlog. It's going to depend on what books end up at the top. If I end up with a bunch of short books up at the top, I might read 3 to 4. If I end up with like 2 500-page books at the top, I'll only read 2. So it's going to kind of depend on what ends up on this ranking list, how many books are in the next vlog. I am going to apologize right now for my appearance and for my voice. Allergy season is upon us, and I have terrible seasonal allergies, and so I'm very phlegmy. I can't put on any eye makeup right now because I just want to claw out my eyeballs. So we're gonna have to deal with glasses and makeupless Robin and a little throaty. We're just gonna have to deal with it. We're gonna roll with it. I am just going to be reading these books in the order in which they are sitting on my phone. I am reading these on my phone just because it is easier for me to view them that way since they're all in a collection. So these are the first 4 books that we're going to be reading. I'm going to read Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRoe, Twisted Love by Anna Huang, Eastern Lights by Brittany Cherry, and Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton. So I'm going to go read the first chapter of these 4 books, and I will come back in a little bit and rank them. So I finished reading the first 4 books, and I'm a little shocked, I'm not gonna lie, about what I ended up putting in what order. I read Her Soul to Take first by Harley LaRoe, and this was really interesting. This is, I think I said this in like the first video in this series, but this is the one that like I feel the strongest pull towards, but it's super long. So this one is a paranormal fantasy dark romance, and it does seem like it's dual POV. So the first chapter that I read was from the demon's point of view. And so we open up with this demon who's kind of being held captive by this like old white dude. And this guy has some sort of like magic book that is holding the demon, and the demon has to do his bidding. He has 2 children as well as a daughter who is like the half, I think it was the half sister. And the half sister is a witch, and the other 2 children are just like rich snots. And so the demon has to go dig up a body, and he goes and digs up this body and takes it to a location where they are doing some sort of sacrifice. And the witch has to like, she is there to determine if the sacrifice is good enough. And so she's like, yeah, this will work. And then the son is the person that killed the guy that they dug up. And so the demon and the son go, and they're going to sacrifice this guy to this sleeping god. And the demon is doing all of these things, but he is terrified of that god. I think it is going to be the romance between him and the witch. Don't hold me to that. I thought this was really dark. It felt kind of like culty, which I really liked. And I am interested in the demon's point of view because he's not a good guy. Like, he's a demon. And so I'm really interested in that. It was really dark and eerie and atmospheric. After that, I read Twisted Love by Anna Huang. And this seems like an average college romance. Our heroine is the younger sister, and she is in college and she has a part-time job, and she gets like stranded somewhere after doing a photo shoot, and it starts to downpour, and she calls her brother for help, saying like, hey, can you come give me a ride? And he says, yes, I will send somebody there to like help you out. He ends up sending his best friend, who is this really quiet and reserved and like stony guy. He goes and picks up the sister, and the 2 of them have to pick up her brother's birthday cake because he is leaving for a year, and her and her brother live next door to each other. And I assume it's like grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers. I think the brother is going to ask the hero to like watch over his little sister. So I thought this was fine. I've heard really, really good things about this series, but there was nothing in that first chapter that like made it stick out. It felt like a very generic romance in that first chapter. We'll definitely continue on. It just, that first chapter didn't set it apart enough to distinguish it for this specific video. After that, I read Eastern Lights by Brittany C. Cherry. This one, I forgot how much I love Brittany C. Cherry's writing. It is just so good. Her writing has this way of just like immediately pulling me into her stories. For this one, I read both the prologue and the first chapter. So again, this is told from dual POV. The prologue takes place in the past and you are from the hero's point of view. He's like 17 in the prologue. His mom has been dealing with cancer for like the last 3 years, and the prologue is them at the doctor's office and you find out that his mother went into remission. It jumps into the present day and we are in the heroine's POV, and the first chapter is her on Halloween, right after getting out of a relationship. Her ex-boyfriend was cheating on her, I believe, and she goes outside of this bar and she sees Thor, who is attacking Wonder Woman, who is his girlfriend, and he's like screaming at her and yelling at her, and then he hits her. Captain America jumps in and starts beating on Thor, but Captain America ends up getting his butt kicked and Thor and Wonder Woman like leave. And so our heroine like runs over there and helps Captain America, who is the hero, and he invites her for a drink. So I thought it was a really like fun first chapter to like get you interested. And like I said, Brittany C. Cherry's writing is just so good. I don't know how she does it, but I'm always like immediately like invested in her characters, even though like there was no real character development in this first, like it was one chapter, but I do want to continue on with this. It was really good. And then I read Satan's Affair and I have notes here, and my note just says, what the literal fuck? I have no words for this first chapter. No words. This opens up with oh my god. If you've read this series, you know why I'm laughing. So it opens up with our heroine, who is in charge of a haunted house. And this haunted house is dressed up as a dollhouse, and she is also dressed up as a living doll. She has henchmen who are all in very terrifying costumes. And there is a guy that she is torturing. It is her playing with this guy and then killing him and then having sex with her henchman while covered in blood. And this is my favorite of the whole group. It was, the whole time I was reading, I was just like, what is happening? What is happening? It was so dark, so intense, and absolutely ridiculous, and I need to continue on with this book. I need to know what the hell this is. Like, I need to know. I need to know. This is a novella that the author highly recommends reading before the cat and mouse duet. And I have no idea if the cat and mouse duet follows this same characters. I don't know if this is just introducing us to the world. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, but I need to continue on with this novella. I need it. So my current ranking is this. In first place, we have Satan's Affair by H.G. Carlton. In second, we have Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRoe. After that, we have Eastern Lights by Brittany C. Cherry. And 4 is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. So that is the first 4 books. Let's get on to the next one. All right, so we have moved downstairs and I have finished the next 4 books. So I have finished Somebody Else by Jackson Kidman, Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman, Frayed Silk by Ella Field, and Black Swan Affair by Kiel Krieg. Krieg? I think it's Krieg. For these ones, I started with Somebody Else by Jackson Kidman, and this one, there wasn't really much to go on. It was a really, really short first chapter. It was only a couple pages, and it opens up with this woman who is somewhere sitting on a balcony. It doesn't explain where she is or anything like that, but she is quite a few months pregnant and she is sitting on the porch and she's just saying, like, I hope that our son has his blah 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 and my blah blah blah. And him and his and he is always italicized. But there wasn't much to go on because she was just talking about like what she hopes for their baby and like that was it. So it was fine. It was only a couple pages. I didn't feel anything about it. Then I read Beating by Jennifer Hartman, and holy shit. Like, I knew what the premise of this one was. I know a lot of people have been reading it, but dang, that was so intense. That like last part of the chapter, I was like holding my breath. I am really interested in this one. It's definitely dark. So it opens up with our heroine, her sister, it's her sister's birthday, and she has this like enemies thing going on with her sister's fiance. They've always butted heads and like played pranks on each other and stuff like that, and they don't really get along. And so she sticks around at her sister's birthday. It's like at this bar or whatever. And when she goes outside to call an Uber, she realizes that her wallet is missing. She is trying to call people for a ride because she can't get an Uber anymore, but it's at the middle of the night. And so the only person that answers is her soon to be brother in law. He drives out to pick her up, but when he gets there, there's this like really creepy dude that is like staring at them. They both like get in the car and lock their doors, and they're like, that dude was weird. And so they start driving, and all of a sudden they see emergency lights behind them, so they pull over and they're like, well, what the heck is going on? Like, we didn't do anything wrong. And someone smashes in the window and starts grabbing her out of the car window. Whoever it is like pulls a gun on them and like hits him in the head and drakes her out of the window. And she like sees that it was like the creepy guy from the bar, and then he knocks her out. And I was just like sitting there and was like, holy cow, that was such an intense first chapter. It was nuts. So that one's high on the list right now. And then I read Frayed Silk by Ella Fields, and this one was really good. So this opens up with this couple. We're reading from the wife's point of view, and something has happened between her and her husband, but you don't know what it is. And so he has like really pulled away from her, and no matter what she tries, he doesn't open up. And so this opens up with her asking for a divorce, and he just says no. And so she goes to bed, and when he shows up later, he's, okay, well, you promised me forever. And she's like, you promised to love and cherish me. And the chapter ends. And so I have no idea what's going on here. I am definitely intrigued by this one, but this one's kind of like middle of the road. Boomy. Boomy. You done? And then finally, I read Black Swan Affair by Kiel Krieg, and I I don't have words for this one. So this one opens up, I read a prologue and then the first chapter, and I'm glad I did because the prologue was actually a couple of pages long, and then the first chapter was like a page and a half. It opens up with our heroine on her wedding day, and you learn right away that she is marrying somebody that she is not in love with. She is actually in love with her groom's brother, and her groom's brother is married to her sister. And you kind of, through context clues, figure out that the brother and her have been having an affair, and he will not leave her sister. And so, out of spite, she is going to marry his brother. That's a prologue. Then it flashes forward to present day, or like 12 months later. And it doesn't say exactly, but I've gotten the impression that the brother has been shot, and so he's in the hospital, and she and like her husband, who might not be her husband anymore because it says that she broke up with him or like they're splitting or something like that, and she's being super cruel, and she's like, I wish it was you fighting for your life. I was like, dang girl. I don't know how I feel about this one. Part of me is really intrigued because it was really dramatic, and part of me is like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this heroine. Here is the current order. So in first place, we have Satan's Affair still. That one was just so wild. In the second spot is Still Beating. because that first chapter really got me. 3 is Her Soul to Take. 4 is Eastern Lights by Brittany C. Cherry. 5 is Frayed Silk. 6 is Black Swan Affair. 7 is Twisted Love. And then in the 8th spot is Somebody Else by Jackson Kidman. That is the current ranking, and let's get right on to the third set. All right, let's fix this. So I just finished batch 3, so we are over halfway through. I read Call Me Crazy by Melanie Harlow, Power Plays and Straight A's by Saxon James and Eden Finley, Try Me by Neve Wilder, and Someone You Love by Kristen Granada. Call Me Maybe, I like this series quite a bit. I loved book 1, I gave that one 5 stars, and book 2 I really liked. I don't think I like Enzo, who is the hero of this story. This is a marriage of convenience and enemies to lovers of romance, as well as like a childhood, I don't want to say childhood friends because they weren't friends, but they knew each other as kids and they didn't get along then either, but their families were friends. And after they went off to college and stuff like that, she has now returned to Bellamy Creek and they are going to get married for convenience. So essentially this opens up with Enzo, who is on a date with somebody that he doesn't really like, but if he doesn't get married before 35, he will not be able to inherit his family's business, which is all he wants. So he proposes to the girl that he's been dating for like 3 months. She's 21 and he's like 33 or 34. And so she's like, dude, I don't want to marry you. And so she leaves and the girl Bianca ends up sitting down. And so he tells her about this whole like marriage thing that he needs to happen. And she says like I could get something out of this, like if we had like a deal or whatever. And he's like, well, what do you want to get out of it? And she's like, a baby. And I was like, whoa. So that one was okay. I really like the world and I like Melanie Harlow's writing. I don't think this one's going to be my favorite though. After that was Power Plays and Straight A's. I love both of these authors. This was so cute. Seems like it's going to be like an opposite attract sort of romance. It is following twin brothers. So one of them goes to Vermont and the hero of this story goes to a rival college in Vermont that's a fake university. The twin brother, he has this best friend who is going to be leaving Vermont and going to this other university where his brother goes, and he is a hockey player, and the hero is bi, and he has always had a crush on his twin brother's this best friend, and his brother made him swear to like never hit on him. But now that he is going to be going to this other school for grad school, his brother wants him to kind of like watch out for his friend because his friend is very like quiet and shy and like he wouldn't put himself out there and meet friends. And so his brother's asking him to like watch out for him, and it sounds like it's going to be opposites attract, kind of grumpy sunshine, and I'm really excited for this one. It sounds really cute. And then I read Try Me by Neve Wilder. I read the first book in the series, I think it was called Want Me, and I think these are all following like roommates or something like that in college, and I loved the first chapter of this one. This first chapter was really long, so this opens up in the past, so they are just finishing up their senior year of high school, and these two boys used to be friends growing up, and they just kind of like grew apart as they got older, and now they go to rival high schools, and they both play basketball, and so they're on rival basketball teams. But you open up with one of the guys, his father is it sounds like he's being investigated for embezzlement and fraud, and so he ends up being arrested in here, and that kind of turns everybody against the son. And this is a very like well-off white collar sort of community. He ends up going to our other hero's house because all of his friends have kind of like shunned him because they don't want to be associated with him anymore. Our other hero lets him in and lets him stay at the house, and they end up having a moment together right at the end of that chapter. Flash forward to a couple months later, they're both in their second semester at university and they see each other across the way, and they end up going their separate ways. And I think it's going to kind of be like a second chance romance between them. But I really liked that opening chapter. I loved their connection. I really liked the like emotion that was in that first chapter. So I really, really liked this one, and I really want to read it. And then I picked up Someone You Love by Kristen Granada, and I talked about this one at the beginning, but this came from a recommendation from Gretchen, and this is a book that is following our heroine who just lost her mother to cancer, and she and her mother were supposed to take a trip up to Maine, but now that her mother has passed away, she is going to take the trip on her own. And I believe the hero suffered a spinal cord injury and now uses a wheelchair. And I don't know how they're going to come together, but this ends with our heroine like going on the trip. It was a really short first chapter. Let's do our new ranking. In first place is still Satan's Affair. In second place is Still Beating. Number 3 is Try Me. I really want to read this one. And 4 is Power Plays and Straight A's. 5, Her Soul to Take. 6, Eastern Lights. 7, Afraid Silk. 8, Someone You Love. 9, Black Swan. 10, Twisted Love. 11, Call Me Crazy. And 12, Somebody Else. So that is my current ranking. I am not gonna lie, I'm surprised that Her Soul to Take fell like so far down the list. But those 2 college romances they really worked for me this time around. So this is the current ranking, and we are gonna go into batch number 4. All right, so I just finished the 4th round, and this was the first one with a couple of duds, so this was not my favorite round, but I read There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, Soul Eater by Lily Mayne, The Never King by Nikki St. Crow, and Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrion Cole. So first I read There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, and this is an author that everyone seems to love. And I kind of hated this first chapter. Like, I think I'm not going to keep reading. I think I'm going to return this one to KU. Really didn't like the writing at all. It seems like it's a serial killer. Like, I know it's a serial killer romance, and I actually like serial killer romances. But this one was really strange. So it opens up at this art show, and there's these 2 rivals, and they're both serial killers. They keep trying to compete like at these art shows, and our hero keeps talking about how everyone thinks that he is like sworn enemies with this other guy and they're competitors. But he's like, I'm just so much better. They see this girl and she's dressed in like secondhand clothes, and they keep like talking about how gross she is. He ends up killing one of the judges and using his bones as artwork. And I was just like, I don't care at all. I don't like the writing. I didn't care. And this is one that I'm gonna return to KU. I didn't like it. And then I read Soul Eater by Lily Mayne, and I'm intrigued by this one. The world is really interesting. The concept is really interesting. So this takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where in the US, monsters started to arise in typical American military fashion. They tried to kill the monsters or like capture them and things like that. But the monsters were so much stronger, and so all they ended up doing was like destroying the majority of the country without actually hurting the monsters in any way. And so now the entire central part of the US is uninhabitable. People are like stuck on the coasts and under military control. And our hero has no family and he had no options, so he ended up joining the military, and he is sent essentially a sacrificial lamb to a god. He's going to essentially just be like bait, and he's standing there as this demon is killing everyone around him, and he's just like standing there because he's like, I don't want to die. Like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't be killing these monsters. And then the monster walks up to him and he passes out. And that's where it ends. So it was really interesting. I'm excited and intrigued by that one. And then I read The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. I was really intrigued by this one. This is one of the ones that like has been going around everywhere recently, and I definitely want to read this. So this one opens up with our heroine who is turning 18. It's her 18th birthday, and she is kind of lost because throughout her family's entire history, the women in her family are kidnapped on their 18th birthday and they return changed, and they've all been diagnosed with schizophrenia because they will constantly be talking about Peter Pan and like the Neverland and fairies and all of these things, and so everyone thinks that they are schizophrenic. She thinks that there is just schizophrenia in her family and that when she turns 18 she's going to like start declining. But it is her 18th birthday and her mom are sleeping in this like attic room, and Peter shows up and like knocks her out and takes her away. Really excited for this one. And then the last one was Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie and Cole. And this was an author I really wanted to give a try. I know Jess from Peace Love Books loves this author. I didn't really like this. It opens up with our heroine who is just kind of like not like other girls. She's kind of quirky and she likes vintage things. She's like really snarky and snotty to, to everyone who picks on her because she's better than them. And all the guys are working on like a construction project across the street from the high school, and they're all like talking about how hot she is. And I'm like, dude, you don't even, she could be 15 for all you know. She gets out of school that day and her car won't start. So our hero goes over and calls her a tow truck, and they get into his car together. And she says something really cheesy about how like she loves old things because they've been discarded and she wants somebody to love them again. And I'm just like, he's like 29. So I don't know. It didn't really work for me. Let's rank them. First, Satan's Affair. 2, Still Beating. 3, Try Me. 4, Power Plays. 5, Her Soul to Take. 6 is The Never King. 7 is Soul Eater. 8 is Eastern Lights. 9, Frayed Silk. 10, Someone You Love. 11, Black Swan. 12, Twisted Love. 13, Call Me Crazy. 14, Somebody Else. 15, Don't Kiss the Bride. And in 16th place, There Are No Saints. So this is the current standing. I think this is going to be controversial and upsetting to some people. This is my current ranking. Let's get into the final round. All right, so I have officially finished all 20 books, or the first chapter of all 20 books. So the last 4 that I read were Thin Ice by Cassie Mint, Complicated Hearts by Ashley Jade, Choosing Theo by Victoria Aveline, and Bossy by N.R. Walker. So Thin Ice is a ice skater coach romance. I believe it's like a novella. It's really short. I think it's insta-lovey, and the first chapter was good. It didn't like blow me away, but essentially we're following our heroine who is learning a new routine with her partner. Her and this guy have been like skating together for many years, but she has a new coach, and he is this like brooding ex-skater, and he makes her very nervous because she is harboring a crush on him, and so she keeps falling, and she ends up having like a pretty bad fall. He comes into the locker room and sees her bruise, and they have a little moment. So it was good. It just didn't blow me away. Then was Complicated Hearts by Ashley Jade, and this didn't give me anything in the first chapter. It is just this kid that I think he's just graduated high school, so I'm assuming he's 18, and it is him having sex for the first time. It was like 4 pages, that was it. So I have nothing to go on from this. After that was Choosing Theo, and the first chapter is essentially her being kidnapped by aliens. So again, it wasn't very long, it didn't give me much, but I am intrigued by this one. The heroine is having trouble sleeping, and she's a landscape architect, I believe, and she gets up because she hears like her screen door flapping in the wind, and she like sees a flash of light and she thinks that there's a storm coming, so she goes downstairs to close her screen door, and she sees this like lizard alien, and then he like breaks into the house and she gets knocked out. So that was interesting. And then the last one that I read was Bossy by N.R. Walker, and this is a one-night stand romance. So it opens up with our hero who is talking about how he was blindsided by love, and he's like, I will tell you the story. And it goes back to him being at a bar. He is like a big business guy. He's married to his job, and he just wants a one-night stand with somebody to like let loose. And he sees this guy that he's never seen in the bar before, and the two of them go back to his apartment and hook up, and they agree to see each other again, and that is the end of the chapter. So my final ranking is as follows. In first place is Satan's Affair. This never got topped. It was just so wild. Then Still Beating, Try Me, Power Plays, and Straight Ace, and Her Soul to Take. So those were the top 5. After that was The Never King, Soul Eater, Eastern Lights, then Bossy by N.R. Walker, and rounding out the top 10 was Frayed Silk. So that's my top 10. Second 10 was Choosing Theo, Someone You Love, The Black Swan Affair, Twisted Love, Thin Ice, Call Me Crazy, Complicated Hearts, Somebody Else, and then in the last two places are the two that I am going to unhaul, and that is Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie Cole and There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. So that is my 20 ordered KU books, and I'm thinking I'm going to read the top 4 because Satan's Affair is very short and Try Me and Power Plays are both contemporary romances, so they should read really fast. So I think I'm going to read the top 4. I would do the top 5, but Her Soul to Take is really long, and so I don't think I'll be able to do the top 5, but I think I can do the top 4. I'm really excited for a bunch of these now that I've got like a taste of those first chapters, and then now I know that I can unhaul 2 of them. I really had a good time with this video, so that's going to be it, and I will see you in my next video where I read the top 4 books. Bye!